Was it already on? Haha. Well, my live works. My truck, not so much. I don't know if you can tell or not. I got a hot temperature gauge down here going crazy. Down here, right there, that little red light. It's just because it's doing a regen, but it's taking forever to get done with. I'm like, this thing needs to be over with, right? Ain't nobody got time for that. So, yeah, raise your hand if you're on death fluid and you love a good regen that takes forever. Man, what a deal. I'll get some time for some people to get in the room. I got barbecue, I got a couple things going on, and I'm going to teach y'all about a few parts you should have in your truck that you could keep that are not too expensive to have on deck. No reason you can't have them on board your truck because they're the ones that break the most. I'm going to get into a lot of stuff. I'm going to get into some barbecue, man. I asked them for a bigger, I don't know what you call it, but I got a regular sized bun. So, regular sized bun, bunch of barbecue, and some beans and mashed potatoes. It's happening. It's been a day, I ain't done yet. It's one of those deals. But, Barbecue Hut has got my back. Oh, if this regen would end. I've been wanting to do a video on parts for quite a while and have not had time to get them all out. So I'm going to just have to give it to you verbally and you can write it down or learn it and remember it. Some people got photographic memories. I'm not that good. I got to write some stuff down. So this thing is uber loud, very annoying right now. Hope it don't just ruin the video. If I have to, I'll cut it off, but just give some time for some people to check in and get in. And if you're not here on this live, but you wish you would have been, because you could have chimed in, hey, make a comment down here at the bottom, no big deal. And I think it's about to end. I could be wrong. The fan kicked in for the temp. I mean, it's really weird. You never know how long. It's a mystery wrapped in a riddle inside of an enigma. I think it was easier for them to figure out purple, the Japanese code, than it would be for somebody to guess how long a regen is going to be and why. It's going to end now. That's great. But I wanted to bring y'all through this just to show you, look, this is what we deal with as a driver. You know, got to deal with this. High temperature on the exhaust is what that is for. As soon as this thing's done regenning, I am shutting it off. It goes through this little thing now where it's finishing up, but it dumps diesel fuel into the exhaust. I've taught a few things about regen, or I showed how to do one. No one else was teaching it, and I showed how to diagnose a couple things. I think I dropped those videos. There's always something going on with these trucks, always. So it's like a forever knowledge thing that you could be teaching this forever, full time. It should be just about done. There we go. And it idled down and it shut off, even though it's still hot exhaust. You're supposed to keep pets and people away from the exhaust side of the truck or whatever. Ain't nobody going up under there. And, I'm in the truck stop. It's all good. I'm going to shut this thing down in a second. I'm going to crank some air up. I'm going to shut it down. So, having some beans and some barbecue. Hope you got something to eat. Oh, man. I don't even know what, man. I guess that's the sauce. Look. Right? Just saying, man. That is full-on barbecue and mashed potatoes. That's a lot of mashed potatoes. So, hey, times are good. been worse. So I gotta check something out here too. Make sure everything's good. And make sure everything is working. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Right there on the stop sign. Well, let's take care of that. You ain't got a lot.
Have to get. Yeah, he turned his lights off to come in here so he wouldn't blind you. That thing is good. We'll figure it out. I would say one thing to keep for sure is a cooler full of water, because like I showed you about Ohio, they got water issues. You're not guaranteed anything. You're not guaranteed the Walmart, all the places you like to go are not guaranteed to be open, working, have what you need. So people talk about their preppers. Well, I'll tell you, for people in cars, you can always have brushes for an alternator. And you don't know that you can rebuild an alternator, but you can. You take it apart, use a paper clip to hold the brushes back. But now check this out. Alright, so this is one right here. For those that I asked of this, I'll give you some time. You can tell me if you know what that is. Anybody? Get a few more in here and let me know, and then I'll get going on that. And I'll run through it real quick. These are good. Let's see. We need $40 for parking in this spot. Man, you have no idea. The parking here, they got so many potholes and big craters. They filmed the moon landing over there. There's a whole bunch of holes. You'll know where it's at before I split. I'll let you know where I'm at. Yeah. So. Now, Icon, you might know where I'm at just from what I'm eating. Okay. Full on barbecue, right? So. Tell me what this is, Icon. I need to know. I need to know what that is. If I didn't know what that was, could you tell me what that was? It's a part you should keep on your truck because they go out. Oh, and I'll give you a hint because there's another part that goes with it. Pipe. Alright, check this out. Tension spring loaded. Let me know if you know what this is. It goes with it. You know? So. I'm gonna shut this thing down. Turn that down a bit so I don't feel like I'm hollering over it too. So. It's a match set. Really? You need this. Okay, you need this. Nope. You need this though. This spring loaded piece right here. I'll tell you what it is in a minute. I don't want to give it away. But you need this with the spring on it. Okay. Even more. These break even more than you need that. But if it breaks, you might as well put a new one of those on with this. It's good to have 2 of these, but you got to have at least one. But once you break one, you'll be going to the shop to get the next one. It's a minimum kind of thing. I'll go ahead and tell you, because you know, there's be some people come in the room by now. Either they could guess, or it's just time for them to learn. No big deal. This is a turbo boot. Okay, this is a turbo boot. It goes on the air-to-air cooler. Okay, there's 2 on this side, couple on the other side. Some trucks are a little different, but they're all pretty well like this right here. You'll find it if you pull your hood. And that's turbo boot right here. Turbo boot clamp. This is what breaks. I got a video on that. I'm gonna put a link to it. We're just starting out 101. That's the most likely thing to break on a truck, and you'll hear a loud boom, right? Like a cannon was shot. And you'll be on the side of the road, or you'll be trying to pull that hill at 7 miles an hour, even empty. You'll have no power, because without boost, an 18-wheeler does not work at all. It works for a car. You don't necessarily have to have a turbo. For an 18-wheeler, you have to have it. The computer, the fuel, everything is clocked or timed or set to it. Let's see here. And so yeah, and I'm going to show how to change the air filter, by the way. I'm going to, because the new ones, the old ones are a big circle, and they have little clamps all the way around them in 3 different places. One here, one here, one here, you know, like a triangle. The older Freightliners, it's just a can. You pull it straight out, big can. These are just a couple screws, but they look like something that'd be difficult to change if you've never changed one. And I'm going to show how to change a air compressor filter. And now that they don't have, so that you don't blow up your engine from pitted liners, I did a video on what a pitted liner looks like. So you don't blow that up, you need to get your coolant checked, and I would get antifreeze extender, because even if it won't freeze or it won't boil, it doesn't mean that you won't have pitted liners. And I bought a truck a long time ago, before they had the pill in the filter and all that. People didn't know, and some of them didn't know still. And they give up the truck when it blows up from it and leave, and then they sell it for the price of the same one across the street for mechanics lien, and you can buy one like that. Well, that's going to happen to all these new trucks, because every single one of them, even this one, they took the water filter out of the water system. They never should have done that. So the engineers who had already solved a problem re-engineered a problem into the system, just like putting the plastic fittings on the Kenworths for their water and that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go over some parts that off the top that could help you. Another part that I'm not going to show you because it's in the bunk. Another part other than turbo boot clamp and a turbo, because I'm going to move these here, okay? Other than these two, I would say, personally, my experience has been the thing that breaks the most is an air compressor governor. The older ones are like $17. And it's 2 Allen head bolts. I'll put a link up on that video how to change one of those. It's so simple. And then, you know, some brass fittings and some hoses. But people don't know, and the new ones are about 60 or 70, even for this truck. It's worth it, because that's what breaks. And especially if you have water in your system, when it's going to happen is going to be the winter time. Water in your system will always go that, and that's the Achilles heel of a whole truck's system. And if your dryer's not doing its job, or which the older dryers didn't do their job, they've been replaced and replaced until they finally got to where they're at now. Or even if your filter is not doing its job and it's all wore out, and your desiccant, you know, in there is not taking water out of your system. Basically, if you have water in your system, the first thing that's going to happen is the water is going to freeze in your air compressor governor, and it's going to pop. It's going to start leaking through the weep hole or through another side, the end of it. Either way, it's going to leak, and that's a quick fix. Anybody can change an air compressor governor. And then you take the lines loose, you take the brass connectors out, you put it in the new air compressor governor. It's about this long, about that big around. It looks like a small, not a nitrous bottle. I don't know what you'd call it. About like a Coke can with no writing on it, just all aluminum. And it's on the Detroit 60 series. It is on the driver's side, and it's about halfway down the motor. On these newer trucks, it is on the driver's side around where that air filter is in front of it. And it's not too hard to get to. 2 Allen head, but you got to have an Allen wrenches basically, but they come in a pack. Which that's a tool you should have, and that leads me to another thing. There is, some tools. We'll get into tools, but one of them for sure, because you can't even get into your fuse box without it, is what I was talking about the other day, is a torque set. Okay, so if you don't know about these, it's some people call them a star, and that drives some mechanics that are sticklers for words crazy, but not me. I'd say that's a star with a hole in it. You know what I'm saying? So these, you have to have one of these just to take your glove box out and change a fuse. So we'll go further from there. The next thing that's most like, well, actually I would keep jumper cables because your batteries go out. And the day they do, or the day that you just use too much of your radio or your air conditioner fan when the thing shut off or whatever, and it doesn't restart, a set of big gauge jumper cables, because yes, it's not a part, but it's something you got to have that. So I'll get into that with tools too, but you got to have those bigger gauge jumper cables. The smaller the number, the bigger the gauge. In other words, 10 gauge, 12 gauge, whatever, is bigger than, that smaller number is the bigger the gauge. So that's a bigger gauge than 16 gauge wire. You're going to want some big ones, some big jumper cables for a car. You can keep those, but that's for jumping off a car. You can keep them as an extra set to add that to. I mean, hook 5 or 6 sets up. I would say you can jump off a truck with one set of 18-wheeler jumper cables, or you can one of those and a car one to keep a car one spare, because they're cheaper, about $9.99 to $19. At Walmart you can get a set of car jumper cables, but the gauge on them, it's so small. It's like the gauge on those wires is like that, and the wire in them is like that. What you need is like that for jumping off a truck, or it'll take forever. I promise you, the bigger the gauge, it's way quicker. So if you got 4,000 cranking amp batteries, it's going to take forever to get them going. And one battery will make the whole pack drain down. So as soon as you have one battery off gas and you got to change it, it'll drain the rest of them, kill them. Just isolate it, unhook it, and you're better without it. But other than the battery, the next thing, because they got these OptiIdle, this jumps this up. If I don't use it, but if you use OptiIdle on these trucks, it puts it even more important than an alternator. I'd say an alternator was next for me. What's next for you guys, if you're using that OptiIdle and starting your truck and turning it on and off all the time, is going to be your starter. Now, starter's under warranty for most of these trucks. If you have extended warranty, it's under warranty. It won't cost you a dime if you make it to the shop. But what's the likelihood you're going to make it to the shop? So you could go to a junkyard and buy a starter, have somebody put it on, do whatever, and then you could turn that other part into Freightliner, however you want to do it. Because some of those things, it's not worth it for a warranty. If you're that far from a Freightliner, but you got to get running, who's got the time? You're going to pay for a $1,700 wrecker to chase a $300 part? So an alternator, okay? But then for me, what comes above that, because I don't start my truck, stop it all the time, and that kind of thing, and do that OptiIdle mess, is the alternator. Keep a spare alternator. Never, ever give up a bad alternator. If you have to change one out, that is great. That means you now have an alternator, and you can go to any local, what's called a starter and generator company, and they rebuild alternators all day long. Get that thing rebuilt, or even buy a spare from the junkyard in the meantime, but keep a spare alternator. Now, you're going to need an impact, or some shop nearby that has an impact, just to take the nut off the front of the pulley and pull the pulley off the alternator. Other than that, you can change the alternator same as a car. Disconnect the batteries first, all of them, and then change the alternator. And then take the pulley off, put it on the new one, and you're good to go. You can change brushes out in it, but usually the bearing's worn out too. So that's not going to get you far. On a car, it's always the brushes. On an 18-wheeler, it'll either do one of two things. It'll either overcharge and be up at like 16 volts and trying to burn the whole system up, catch it on fire or something. Or it'll not charge at all, which is the second most likely thing to happen. The other one's the third. The first most likely thing to happen is, because you're running millions of miles on it, or 600,000 miles, most teams burn them up at 400,000. Most regular truck drivers run their alternator and it'll die at about 600,000. The thing is, the number one cause of failure is the bearing. It throws the pulley out forward and it'll throw the belt. That's why you keep the next most important thing to keep on a truck is a set of belts. What you do is, when you have your idler pulley changed out under warranty, like I showed, you go up there when it's squealing, you have them test it, and they'll test it with spraying water and they'll change it for free. Have them go ahead and put new belts on there. And then the next one might be on you, or it might still be under warranty, but then you take those belts and squeeze them together, fold them over a zip time, and throw them in the bunk. And then you've got extra belts for the time that your alternator bearing goes bad and throws that belt, and it's on the highway and you're 50 miles from there because you've been riding. Keep spare belts. Now, you don't use that one for a long time. You just put it on there, and then you get it to the place, Freightliner, whatever, Peterbilt, whatever place your manufacturer is, and get a new belt. The next most important thing, and trying to do these in order of importance is the hardest part. For me, I keep a CB and I keep a spare mic. If you want to talk about parts, I keep a spare mic and key switch if you keep a key switch. But that's, everybody's different. There's these people that's trying to run Beats by Dre on their head and earphones and crap like that and not paying attention, which is illegal to have two earbuds in anyway. You're supposed to have one earbud in if you're doing any kind of vehicle. Really, you shouldn't have any in an 18-wheeler, so that you can hear that siren off in the distance. Instead of going through the green light intersection, you think you got it, and then the ambulance comes along and hits you, and it's your fault because they had the right of way. Because they had their sirens on, you just didn't hear them. So get rid of the Beats by Dre, for real, and quit walking and standing up on your, well, I don't know if they're, man, it looks like they're on a birthing table. Swear to God, these drivers with the legs up, not gotten into that. Yeah, y'all got to stop that mess too. We're going to go further. Let's go forward from here. Okay, parts. Let's stay focused here. All right, winter wiper blades. You got to keep a spare set of blades, but also keep winter wiper blades, because you never know when that storm's going to hit. It was 82 degrees one day and 35 and started to snow, and then it was 32 the next in Denver, Colorado. The winds come down, the jet stream dipped down and came back and just dropped in there. You never know what your weather's going to be like. Even if you're sitting there overnight, one day it's 80, 82, 85. It could be hail and everything else. You got to have a set of blades, and you might need a set of wiper blades if it's snowing. Past that, all of your fluids. You've got to keep washer fluid, even if you got to make it yourself with alcohol. I showed how to make that. And you got to keep, you're supposed to, by law, you're supposed to have oil and antifreeze too. They're running out of money, and these places are doing DOTs on us and hitting us real hard and trying to make revenue off of us, and every little thing we do wrong is $100 to them, and we go broke, and they think we just got deep pockets and all this money. Well, they're going to start getting people for that. You're supposed to have spare fluids and stuff. Now, I'll tell you, one thing that I found out the other day, I had that breakdown and I didn't have a water separator, what I call the outside frame rail fuel filter, but it's a fuel water separator. Didn't have a spare one with me. Usually I keep one, but I used it to save a little money on the last oil change and figured I'd pick one up. Well, then the injector cups went out, and it's like, really? So I had to have them bring me one. Even though I fixed it for the most part myself the next day, drove to Nashville, got the parts, all that stuff, I still wound up paying a pretty hefty price for not having the fuel water separator. when they first come out with these DD13s and DD15s, those package filters were hard to come by. It's a good idea to keep the water separator filter and maybe even a fuel filter kit, because fuel filters can collapse. And if you think you're going to get 35,000 miles on an oil change, like your company says, or 25, what these people are doing, man, we used to change dinosaur oil at 12. These people are getting crazy with it. And so I don't care about the oil, that it doesn't, whatever, it still breaks down. And I don't need the contaminants. There's so many contaminants that blow by and go down into the crankcase ventilation stuff and get into the oil, that even if the oil's good, it's still got all those contaminants. I changed mine, man. You talk about 22, maybe 23,000 miles at the, the highest, even though you're using synthetic oil, because you got all the contaminants in that oil. So you got to keep your filters, because the fuel filters will collapse on you and put you on the side of the road and break you down. So keep the whole kit for whatever you got. If you got a DD13, 15, it's the same thing. Get an extra kit and have them put it on your maintenance, whatever you got, and put it on the bill and carry it with you, and rotate stock. Use that one for the next one, use that one for the next one, you know what I'm saying? But keep new filters in your truck. They'll save you some money. It would have saved me some money the other day. I have done them before. But you might buy bad fuel somewhere, and you might have water all up in your water separator. Even if you drain out the bottom, the fuel filter on there might start acting funny. It is what it is. I showed how to prime and how to, drain them and all that stuff the other day. But you got to have the filters to do it. Man, moving forward from there, look, we can go crazy talk. I know guys that actually, because some of them have their own trailer, but they know it's a rare situation. Well, brake chamber. I would say next is a brake chamber. That's not so crazy, because those go out and you got 4 of them. Mathematically, 1. You're going to need 1 brake chamber, 1 spare. And honestly, if you have a brake chamber that's just starting to leak, to be honest with you, and you buy another one and it's barely leaking, I'll be honest with you, better than the one that completely goes out. I'd throw that one in the bunk and keep it as an emergency until such time as you get a spare one. For real. Because it'll get you off the side of the road and get you to a shop that, you know what I mean? You can't change. They made a law, they passed a law where people were dying taking the clamps off of them on the wrong end, and the spring came apart and would cut their head off or go through them or whatever. It's a lot of pressure in there. So now there's still older ones that have that mechanical clamp that has a, whatever size bolt on it, and you could take that clamp off and it will still hurt you, okay? Because both of them, only one of them can you take off, right? The newer ones, one is welded to itself and the other one's mechanical. If it's leaking out of that mechanical side on those models, you could still take that one off, cage it, take that off, and change the pancake. It's a piece of rubber. It's about $7. A lot of truck stops still sell those. It's kind of like rebuilding a brake chamber, but you're doing half of it. It's like changing a piggyback. It's a half brake chamber. And the 30-36 long strokes like these, they don't sell half ones. You have to buy the whole thing. But the good news is you don't have to cut the rod no more. All the rods are already made the right size for the most part. I have not seen one that's been different. I could be wrong, but the problem is the old ones is a 5/8 inch socket. And what we used to do to have that deep well socket to cage it, so you're not sitting with a wrench all the whole time. I use an impact and go down with it. The trick is to take 2 impact sockets. One of them has to be 5/8. The other one, it doesn't matter what size, as long as it's big enough gauge for that threaded rod to go through. And you take the first one, that's the 5/8 one, and you cut the head off of it. Then you weld the other one to the back end of it, and then you have a long socket. That's a 5/8 inch socket. Or you can pay $90-something at Matt, Snap-on, Matco, whatever tools, and you'll have a long socket. Theirs are called a extra deep socket, 5/8 inch. Now, the ones that these trucks have are a 30-36 long stroke, and it requires a 1 1/16 socket. So there's only 1 or 2 companies that started making those, but they're so expensive. They're like, maybe those are 75, or I don't know. So I'm thinking maybe the other ones went to 40 or something, and then these new ones are like 75. I would just take 2 sockets. 1/16 is the one you want at the bottom. Cut the head off of it, weld the other one to it until they get real about the prices on them sockets. That's what I did. So I'll do a video on how to make one of them. I'll make another one. At some point, I'll do that. But you need 1 1/16 now on the 30-36 long stroke. So the 30-30, you can buy a half chamber, and those are cheap. Man, those are really cheap compared to $160 or $190 for the 30-36 long stroke. So maybe it's 30-34. I have to look that up. I could even be wrong there. I just know that you should keep an extra one. So going from a brake chamber, you got to have bulbs, you got to have tail lights, and if you don't know how to change tail lights in a trailer, I'm gonna do a video on it. It's okay, nobody was born knowing all that. But fuses and lights, you need dash bulbs and you need turn signal bulbs. But these little lights up here go out, and I'm gonna fix to kill that one and just go to red. And I'm gonna do some more chatting. I hope I'm not talking too fast for anybody that's writing this stuff down, because seriously, you do need to write this stuff down. Let's see. I am going to get into cell phone chargers and stuff. And this is what kills me, is they tried to say that you can't have, that Tesla couldn't have technology that would send electricity through the ground. He showed it through the air and everything. Now they've got chargers for cell phones that you can share charge from one phone to another and put it on it. And they've got chargers that are non-contact chargers that you just sit one on another and it charges it up. So yeah, they're using Tesla technology, but they just want to act like it's normal. Something you don't plug 2 wires to, but it magically charges. Yeah. Anyway, don't get me started on that either. I'm just thinking right now how to not go into tools, but how to go in just to spare parts. So spare parts. There's some air valves in these dashes that once you start taking them and changing them, you want to buy the other ones because it's only a few dollars, and one usually fits in 3 different holes. That's down there in the air valves. This one's locked up, but down here. Little sensors is what they are. Like an oil sending unit, but they're a little different. I'm gonna get some air in here. I've got a guy next to me running his truck. Guy on the other side running his too, I guess. So, alright. Just off the cuff, man, I know I'm going to miss a lot of stuff that I would want to, and I'll try to make even comments myself of what I'm forgetting. I'm just having lunch and doing this off the cuff. I took no notes. So, oh, the O-rings for your glad hands, and an extra set of air hoses, especially if you got the curly cues ones. Let's see. Driver, no, I rolled down the window and then rolled this one up. See? Anyways. Now it needs some fresh air because it's getting warm in here. I did that regen, but I'm wanting to let the engine cool off. But this guy next to me's got his engine running, so that's what I'm dealing with. I may open up that other thing over there. No, I'm still having barbecue. I'm still trying to do what I can to knock this out. I won't go hungry, that is for sure. So might just be quieter just to start the truck up, to be honest. Get it cooled off for another minute. Here comes the beep, right? Sorry about that. It's just too hot. Gotta have my brain working. I gotta keep my brain cool. So let's see what we got here. All right, so moving right along, and we were into airlines, especially if you have those plastic ones that I hate, and I can't stand them, and I hate them, and they're garbage. And if you turn left on a cold day, they'll snap, and you'll be stuck on an intersection. So keep at least one, even if it's an old beat up one. If you keep it warm in the truck and stick it back there, it should last you another, couple of weeks. If it hadn't given you trouble before. I'm telling you, people, keep spare airlines for your truck, at least one, especially the curly Q ones. I would keep 2. And they're red and they're blue, but they fit the same. So in an emergency, just change it out and get it going. No law says they have to be on the right side. That's to help you. And glad hands, you can keep one of them spare, and they're interchangeable and they connect together whether you know it or not. They really do. People want to argue that. Try it. Because you can push start a truck that's got a bad starter by pumping it up with air from another truck, hooking your glad hand to his, and he releases his valve and you release your valve. It pumps air into your system. That's going to take care of one side. It's best to have a inline air hose, air chuck at the bottom, and an air line that hooks to a glad hand, and then you pump up the tank. But if you do it the other way, where you hook up two glad hands, nowadays in the back here they have one-way check valves. It's like a barrel in between the hose and the cab. You'll see it. You got to remove that to put the hose there because it's a one-way check valve. So to keep bleed from the trailer coming back forward and that kind of thing. But you just pump it up to what you have. But I mean, I can handle 140. They're going to be having 120, so it's not going to hurt me none. Just make sure their compressor governor is working and it's not over compressing. But so the O-rings for the glad hands is the biggest, because especially if you go and take a trailer from Laredo that's done been to Mexico and then stole them off there. They love those rubber O-rings. They like the ones that go around the trailer tail lights. They steal anything like that. They'll take the virgin tires off a truck and put recaps on them. They'll do anything they can to steal stuff because they don't manufacture stuff down there, and that stuff is like gold to them. So back when they were doing that NAFTA thing, they spent more money, government, paying subsidies to companies because they were stealing all the parts of them for a long time until they got like a bunch of parts in Mexico, I guess. But let's see, from O-rings will be next. Actually, that might be one of the most important things to keep is O-rings, right there with fuses. But I'm trying to go in some kind of order, and you got to start somewhere. So let's see. Let's see, I did belts, fluid. Which you do have to keep a Dabco wrench, a fuel water separator filter wrench, that big spanner wrench I showed, but that's in the tools. So I'm trying to stay parts. We'll do another one on tools. Let's see what we got on parts. What breaks the most on a truck? That's a hard question. Let me shut this thing off again. I don't usually turn this thing on and off that much. See, that's how I've got it started. It lasts forever, but honestly, with that regen, it messed me up. Man, you can keep a spare tire. That's one thing that it doesn't matter if you got super singles or what. I showed bought a tire rack and where I got it from, that junkyard. That guy makes them down there. I'll put a link up to that. Spare tire carrier for $150. Mounts to your frame behind your truck. And I got a catwalk there too, but you can go to a truck stop and buy one for somebody for $100, but it's better to have your own that matches your tread and it's good. So keep the highest tread spare if you buy 4, and I would say re-groove them in the meantime, but keep a good one and get another one re-grooved and keep that as a spare. So from there, mud flaps, you can keep at least one. And the bolt kit, because nobody wants to take the bolts off and put them back on. Get a bolt kit. Just pay the $8 for the kit, $9 for the kit. Bolt, nut, washer, lock washer. Take the old ones off, throw it in a box, and you ain't even got to mess with dirty ones. And you put the clean ones on there, and there you go. But you can actually get a mud flap off the back of the truck stop. They leave them there all the time. You don't want one that says Schneider or none against them. I'm just saying, as an example, you don't want some other company on your truck, but turn it inside out if you have to, but spray paint it. But you can take them and you just cut them with a straight edge and a razor blade and then drill more holes in them. So let's see. I'm all the way to the back at mud flaps. Man, I'm thinking and I'm racking my brain about what else I would want for spare parts on a truck and what breaks the most. Man, from there you're just talking stuff, I think, like cell phone chargers and mess. What else is there? People, I tell you, I do keep some parts, and I do have that fuel water separator sensor. Oh yeah, that's a good one. Oh, this is a good one. Antifreeze sensor. Man, the coolant sensor on these trucks, they go out, and even if you have coolant in that box up there, it'll say you don't, and then it'll shut your truck down. That's the number one disaster waiting to happen too. That might be right up there with one of the first ones. So maybe I've put that one way out of order. But yeah, a coolant level sensor for your truck. So, but some people, like I was talking about the trailers. Oh, and one more thing too. If you have a rare airbag, those Goodyear airbags for a while they were out of stock, and it was a big deal. There's nothing wrong with keeping a spare airbag. People do blow airbags. I've blown a couple. Overextending your frame going through a big whole parking lot like this one. If I had parked over there, but I didn't park over there. But if you don't know the parking lot, watch where you're going, because if you overextend that axle, you'll pop an airbag. It makes it go too far. And you're talking about 160, 190 bucks when you could have got one in a different state that was cheaper, or they may not even have it in stock. And you might be sitting there for 2 days waiting on a dang airbag. Keep in mind, you can go to a junkyard. If you're ever stuck like that, you can get junkyard parts. But airbags, those Goodyear ones, like I said, they were rare for a bit, and they could still be, I mean, there was a run on them. There could still be a shortage. But let's see here. Where was I at? Let's see, rare parts too. We're going to make my brain catch on fire. Either that or I will, because it's getting hot in the truck again. But I'm thinking, I'm working on it. Let's see, airbags. Mainly it's beating the wrecker. So anything that will keep you, see, mainly though, like I was talking about, okay, let's just go through it. Oh yeah, and some drivers do keep slack adjusters for their trailers, because those are rare things that are just devoted to their trailer. And if you have like a Wabash dealer, that's your Wabash trailer, go by there and get whatever they say is the right one for your trailer. And I know people that's got 2 and 3 and 4 of them, because they change 2 at a time. Extra slack adjusters if you own a trailer. I'm gonna tell you though, on your truck, you know, they should last, but nothing's promised. That's on the extreme level of things, but there's some extreme drivers out there. But going back to some of the 3 bigger items that you keep, other than just the fuel water separator, all the whole kit for changing basically an oil change, I'll tell you, because it's cheaper to buy it that way, and then you get the fuel filters and get the outside water separator separate. Out of those major sized ones, a brake chamber, an alternator, and if you had an airbag, you know, extra airbag, but definitely a brake chamber and an alternator. And if you can get your hands on a starter, do that. But that brake chamber and that alternator, that's for like running between Kansas City and Denver, Colorado, because there's no truck stops to be had. There's Salina, Kansas. Okay, there's you know, Flatbed Willie's is the place there, and then they've got that Salina, Kansas. They changed it from one place into, I think, a pilot. After that, and there's no parts after that. They're lucky to even have parts at that place. There's zero Freightliner anything until you get to Denver. Man, you talking quite a few, 449 miles or 447 miles, if I'm not mistaken? I used to deadhead that far to pick up light bulbs. I was, you know, Landstar had some good paying freight, so it's worth deadheading that far. I'll tell you, you'll do yourself a service to keep a brake chamber and an alternator going between those 2 places. But everything else I said, you know, but it's like you can buy the O-rings for an airline in most TAs if you're close enough to one. Usually they're going to be good for your whole trip. You're good. But you start talking about alternators, they're not going to have them. So it's all about beating the wrecker. Would you rather have a $100-something alternator or a $1,700 wrecker bill? And it's going to take time to come up with and keep a spare CB radio too. It's a backup radio. So we used to call them backup radios because you had them as a backup. The older type were bulb type. That's a little before my time. But even the other ones that were going out and you keep a spare, it's called a backup radio for a reason. It doesn't mean you have a radio and you keep it off or unplugged until you get into a backup. And then you turn it on. Hey, what's going on? And nobody told me. Yeah, because you had your radio off. We've been talking about it for miles. So rather than run into people have an accident, not paying attention, get a CB radio. But you can also have a backup radio in the bunk, and a backup mic. Always have a spare mic. So yeah, it's mainly about getting between point A and point B that has no truck stops, no parts to be had, and you're paying a wrecker bill for something stupid. There is I set it up, I made it, I hope it's still there. I made it a shrine. It's a truck starter, an 18-wheeler starter. It's all rusty and stuff. And it was a shrine dedicated to those who somehow, without much means, broke down and got themselves going again. It's on a concrete pillar at the casino behind the place that is a gas station truck stop. And I parked at the truck stop gas station. I saw it, put it up on that thing, and people put pennies on it. I'll put GPS location to that at some point. Oh, my battery's dying. Let's see. Close that out. Okay. I'm going to have to plug this thing up now. And I'll be getting out of here in a bit here. So I'm going to finish this food up. So there's a shrine to broken down motorists at that place. I'll give you GPS on it. It's kind of funny. And if you get there and you see it, leave a penny. At some point, I'll put a copper a copper plaque or something, a little piece of something that says what it is, but people have left it there. They got what it was. You know, they kind of get it. It's sitting up there. It's just sitting up there on the concrete, like a Jersey wall piece of concrete. It's on the back row of that place. So anyways, at the truck stop. But yeah, that's what happens, man. You're in the middle of nowhere and you're like, hey, can the driver get me here? Or hey, can I, if you needed a cab or whatever, go get your parts. It's kind of crazy. Oh, here's another one too, man. Definitely have an airline to pump up your own tires. That should just about be number one, but here's the other one. Have air fittings in case the airline from your compressor back to the back, in case that airline, because it looks braided steel, but it's weak as a straw from McDonald's inside of it. And I would definitely, what's that, coffee and cigarette? I got you. Coffee and cigarettes, yeah, there you go, that's spare parts. So keep a extra fitting, and if you just take off that 90 degree or whatever, or just reduce it down to regular airline, then you could take your airline and you bungee cord it around your frame, run it all the way along your frame to the back, hook it into, and have all the fittings to hook it into your air tank, and that would be a temporary airline. It'll get you to the Freightliner dealership, and then you can get because that's about $100 and something airline when you buy it, but the wrecker to get there is $1,700, or the cab ride's $200. There was a guy that he was from another country. He's like, oh, I got a credit card, it's okay. I'm like, no, it ain't okay, dude. You were for real paying for that. I have loaned some of those brass pieces out. You can get them from a TA. Every TA, if you say, hey, I want the fittings that would change this over, just like a wrecker, when he tows you, he disconnects the airline from your compressor, and he will hook onto that and then run a line back. That's up to his truck. That's the same thing to release the brakes. So you can run a regular air hose instead of the airline that is your supply line from your compressor back to the tank. You can reduce it down with those brass fittings, but you need them brass fittings, and it's probably about $30 or $40 worth of brass fittings from a TA. So I'll show my brass on a video. I'll just call it "This is my brass" and drop that video like that. And I'll have to put a link to this one, that one on here. Like I said, there's so much that I could teach that it's difficult to put it all together, but I'm trying. So let me think here and rack my brain some more. I'll try to help you some more, because I've just about got it all, I think. I keep these valve locks, man, are indispensable, because nobody can mess with your truck. Even if you gave them the key, they can't steal it because they break the valves. But I'm thinking here, that may be about all the parts. Maybe not all the parts I've got. I got some small different ones, but oh, I keep a thing to pump up a brake chamber too. A little brass piece with two pieces of brass that thread together, but it's got a hole in the middle and a valve stem out of it, like you'd pump up a 18-wheeler tire or a car tire. It's a rubber valve stem, and it's squeezed between the brass pieces. You can screw that into a brake chamber and you can pump it up and cage it, instead of even having the caging tool I got. But I got that too. There's 5 or 6 ways to take a brake chamber off. I've seen them screw them off, back them off by unthreaded, spinning the whole thing. I've seen craziness. But Yeah. Man, I'm trying to think of what under the truck brakes. Oh yeah, any kind of an ABS valve you can get your hands on if you have those spare. And then if you have the older Freightliners, I kept a spare speedo sensor that goes in the transmission down here, and it goes into what I call the chopper wheel. You screw it all the way in, and then you back it off a turn and a quarter to a turn and a half. Or that thing, when it spins around, will chop the end of it off. That's why I call it the chopper wheel. Really, it's called the exciter ring, because it's a magnet on the end of your sensor, your speed sensor, that picks it up. So it's called an exciter ring. It excites that thing and tells it how fast you're going. One of those, and I've known people to keep extra gauges for their, their speedometers. Get your hands on an extra speedo for when yours goes out, so it'd be cheaper on you. Then you can get a used one from a junkyard for pretty cheap, because they go out. It's all about what goes out. Any kind of sensor you can get your hands on, starting with that fuel sensor I showed the other day. Definitely, like I said, the coolant level sensor. Some people keep extra thermostats too. You got a couple thermostats. I mean, it's endless. That's going a little far for most people. But water pumps, man, if you got an extra water pump that you get your hands on and it's for your truck, there's nothing wrong with having one of those either. So you got to check your coolant lines, and you can, in the meantime, you can order those from a magazine made of stainless steel. I appreciate the like. You can get them made of stainless steel that will never rust, but these metal ones they put in these trucks always rust. It looks like a saxophone. It goes it's the saxophone that carries antifreeze from your radiator down and back up, and on the other side it's a taller one that comes up and over. Both of those are made, and there's a company that, if you just Googled, "Are your coolant pipes rusty?" That's the saying that's on the back of those trucker magazines that you get in the truck stops and the mom and pops. Look in the back of those magazines. Not the ones that are about jobs, the ones that are about parts and stuff. In the back, it'll say, "Are your coolant pipes rusty?" And he makes them out of stainless steel, and they look sharp, and you can polish them up. They'll never rust. They're better than this thin tin metal crap, and then you buy another one and it does the same thing. So if you have the tin metal crap, sand it down every year and spray paint it. No lie. That right there, they'll last. They'll last forever, because the coolant inside ain't gonna rust. They will last. I've got a video on that. I'll put a link up to that on here too. Most of it's in Fix-It vids and trucking tips. But I'm really trying to rack my brain to compile this in this video so you can write it down, and I'm still thinking I'm missing something. I already went over belts, hoses. Oh yeah. The water hose, there's a little shorty water hose like that long on most of these trucks, and it's that big around. It's about 2 inches, and some of them are cut by the foot. Those things fail all the time. Keep a clamp and keep an extra one of those too. Just like I was talking about the turbo boot clamp. This one right here, the turbo boot and the turbo boot clamp, it's the same thing, but it's miniature and it holds water back. So those, definitely find the ones for your truck. Most of them are black, and they cut them by the foot at TA. So it's just a few bucks. Well worth having. And then those fuel lines, any piece of that, CJ Blaze, I got you. Yeah, and hello to Larry Q, 1951, and Icon, everybody in the room. Appreciate you showing up. And look, there'll be a lot of people that need this knowledge, and some people won't want to admit that they need it. Some people are going to want to watch it later, kind of incognito. I'm cool with that. Look, nobody knows it all. Everybody had their first day trucking. This is not mine. So I'm just putting it out there for you and trying to help. If there's anything I'm missing, Icon, if you can think of something, I would say keep extra coolant. Man, here's what I would do too. I would keep at least 1 jug of antifreeze that's 50-50 mix, and 3 empty jugs or jugs of water. Either way you want to do it. Because, man, you will need it quick. These things, when they leak everything out like that. And it'll shut you down because it'll turn your motor off. So if I've got a low coolant level, even 1 gallon low, it goes into shutdown and you're not moving. Not at all. So, and keep your DEF fluid full. Some people have to buy them tanks of it. I just get it from the truck stop. Here's why. Don't carry DEF on board. Don't. Keep your tank full and get it from the truck stop. That's one thing I don't say. Don't carry DEF. Here's why. It'll go bad, you won't rotate it, and the DEF they have at Walmart doesn't sell that much, and it's already bad, out of date, and it'll mess up your whole system. I'll put a link to a guy who had a dually. It destroyed his truck. He had to spend something like, I don't know, $4,000, $5,000 to get it running again, and it was because he used old DEF. DEF has it's like milk. That's how fast it goes out of date. I'm not lying to you people, just forget about it. Just, if you have to, and you're buying it in a tank like that, buy it at the truck stop. Don't buy it at Walmart, because the date on those things. I'm just telling you, nothing against Walmart. They have great stuff. Don't buy your DEF there. Don't go for cheap DEF. And get it at a truck stop. Just fill your tank up. You don't have to keep that spare. If you do, you got to rotate that stock because it goes bad. And it'll mess up your whole system. And keep your DEF full. At least half full. Because the air in there makes crystals. And these little crystals mess up your whole system too. Which I just had my DPF filters changed out, but you can check your particulate filters and see how bad they're clogged by your computer over there. You go into default home, if you run PeopleNet, default home, vehicle, let's see, is this right? Engine data, and then scroll on down, and it'll be the third from the last. Diesel particulate filter status not needed. Diesel exhaust fluid right now is at 84%, but it's really full. It's a little off. So I think this is a little bit hit and miss. I didn't have anything written down. This was all out of my head, and just straight over a lunchbox, people. This is all I was doing. So I hope I covered some stuff. I hope that I'm hitting and not missing. You know, I know I'm striking a chord with some people. I'm trying to put my knowledge out there, and this is just 26 years of experience talking. It's not that I'm a genius. I've just been doing it so long, and I was completely interested in knowing that once a mechanic was done working on my truck, that he did his job and I'd know how to fix it or what he changed. Even if you're a company driver, there's nothing wrong with saying, oh, okay, this truck's fixed now, what did you fix on it? And then go out there and look and see if the bolts are tight. Or go out, because how else are you going to check? How else are you going to know, right? How are you going to know he did his job? And if you don't watch him tighten up your bearings, a lot of times they'll take a book from one truck and think that that's the same torque on a front axle bearing. You'll burn up a bearing, you could die, okay? That bearing catch on fire and it'll lock up your steering and whatever and pull to one side and blow a tire up, whatever it does. It'll break the axle off. So make sure that they're tightening the axle bearings to the correct. They tighten them down all the way and then they back them up a bit. You got to make sure that it's jacked up and the thing still spins by hand is one way, but the true way is to know that they put it to the right torque. They use an impact, and then they use once they get it so far, they use a breaker bar with it's a torque wrench that it clicks and doesn't tighten it no more when it gets to a certain amount of torque. Some are, man, what is it, 160, 180, 200. So every one of them's different. And if you tighten one the wrong way, too much, is what I'm saying. If you tighten one too much, you can wind up smoking the bearing, breaking the axle off, and dying, and taking some people out with you. So I go out there. I don't sleep while the mechanic's working on any kind of axle bearing seals, wheel seals, because they got to take all that off for a wheel seal. I'm out there with them. You know, and if your brakes are oiled over, get new brakes. It's one of those things where they can technically, if it's not too much, they could use some brake parts cleaner on them and clean them up, and then some sandpaper behind them. Doesn't hurt, but so that your brakes aren't smoking and catch on fire later because they didn't do a good job or whatever, I would get new brakes, especially if they're saturated with oil. You have to, you're supposed to by law. You're supposed to get new brakes if you have a wheel seal. So make sure they're doing that. You know what I mean? Before you go down the mountain and then you do all that mess and then you have to come back to them on recourse or whatever. You don't want a trailer catch on fire and burn the whole thing up. Another thing, if you ever do have a set of brakes that's smoking like that, don't stop at the bottom of the hill. When you stop is when it's going to catch on fire. What I would recommend is ease off the brakes and just kind of coast. I mean, if it's locked up, if it's a brake chamber, it's locked up, then you got to stop. But just know, as soon as you do, you get that one-shot wonder over here, that one little fire extinguisher, and go straight back there because it's going to catch on. I wouldn't even set the trailer brakes at that point. I'd just set the tractor brakes, because when they touch together, they hold that heat. They're going to weld themselves together too, and then you're going to need a wrecker. So I'd leave them released if you're on level, pull the tractor brakes, and then go back there and fight a fire really fast, because it's going to catch on. And you might not be able to put it out. So plan on taking your phone with you and be able to call the police and have them bring the fire department before you burn up the whole trailer. That's what happened the other day on a video. Just burn up the whole trailer. This guy didn't, bad brake chamber. But even if they're smoking just for any reason, you better know when you stop, it's going to catch on. That's when it catches on. I've fought many fires. I won all of them. I got lucky. I even fought a couple that were just battery fires that caught on the inside of a shop for a company I was leased to. And I went in there, I fought those too. I got chemical pneumonia from that, so don't breathe in the fire extinguisher. That was rough stuff. But, hey, it took three extinguishers until we finally figured out we had to hurry up, disconnect some batteries because it was catching on. So I appreciate the likes there. So I'm gonna run in this window or start this thing up or something, man. I need some air. People, it's getting hot. You can say what you want. I didn't mean to monopolize the conversation. I guess you kind of needed to hear from me on this one. And if you got anything to say, go ahead and say it. And I'm gonna get off this thing, and I gotta get back to work because lunch break will be over. And man, I've got a cigar. I got things going. Good things are gonna happen. And man, I kind of waited out a tornado and went between it. Got lucky. Ohio was shot. Those were some good beans, but they are gone. So, anything y'all want to say? You want to rate me from 0 to 10? Let me know how I did something. I don't know. Whatever. Give me a hard time. But I know I'm right about this stuff, people. It's just experience. That's all it is. It's no big deal. It's just I've been doing this for so long, and that's the crap that broke. Nothing to it. Oh, and keep a tire plug kit, because they can save you. And on the twisting thing, somebody asked me about putting the plug in. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you. Here's why. I only twisted like 2 times. I showed too many on that video because I had a deep one. Let me just say this. When you put the plug in, if you twist it once, a turn, or maybe a turn and a half, and pull out, here's what it does. It creates a ball on the end of the plug, and it stops it from coming back through the tire, and it also makes it a better seal. And then you cut that off. So I'm saying on the inside you have a knot. It makes a knot when you twist it like that, just a little. If you twist it too fast, then you've broke the plug. So I've got a couple videos I ain't even put up yet, 4 or 5 of them where I plugged them. But then you go straight to the truck stop and you have them take that tire off, and he gave me a 10, and okay, cool, appreciate that, Larry Q 1951. So oh wait, I did get some comments here. I missed something. Let's see. Dinner's ready. I gotta check your other video too. Take care. Good channel. Keep them coming. Yeah, I'll put links to some stuff on here. Let me start this thing up. I appreciate that though. I'm gonna call you Larry Q. I appreciate that, man. So yeah, so take it right away though. That's a very emergency fix. Matter of fact, if you got a nail in a tire and you're near a shop, don't even pull it because it might leak out. Go straight to that shop, but tell them that you don't just want a patch, you don't just want a plug, you want both. It's a kit. It is a blue looking plug that goes from the inside to the out, and they cut it and then they put a patch on top of that. I'm running one right now on this other side of this tire. I'm telling you, you can run the tires out until there's nothing left with plugs and patches together. A plug patch kit, or even just a patch, lasts forever. So wait, looks like I got some more comments here. Let's see. As retracted YW. Okay. I just don't know what YW means. But you gotta elaborate on that. I don't know every single slang there. Man, I had people we'll be talking and somebody give me an abbreviation for something, and I won't know what they're talking about. But yeah, and I'll give you another tip, and then I'm gonna get down the road. Give you some intel here real quick, and I know it's hard to zoom down, but it's easier for me to zoom up. Let's see if I can zoom up. Oh, you're welcome. Oh yeah, right. Yeah. But see, like I said, I'm sorry for not knowing that. I just, man, I'm just an old truck driver trying to learn a new thing here. It's like an old dog in a new trick. I'm just trying to learn a new thing. And check this out. If you want some good barbecue, little heads up. They're closed now. Soul Man Barbecue. I wish they wouldn't have shut down because the lights are really neon and awesome. You know what I'm saying? But Soul Man Barbecue, Van, Texas. I'm telling you, people, it's not that it's the greatest barbecue in the world, but when they're giving you mashed potatoes like this, it's like $9.99, man. I'm still gonna eat on this. So I hope everybody's doing good. I appreciate y'all checking in with me. I'm gonna finish this up. Anything y'all want to say? I'm gonna play a little bit of music here, tunes, and then you say what you like. Talk amongst yourselves. Oh man, is this thing gonna be like that? I got to do something with my battery on this. Everything's dying. That's what's up. And then I got to get going. So it's been a hot day in Texas. It's crazy that it's so hot. See how dead that thing is? Everything was good. Got nothing now. We'll just go chill. If I can find chill. That's Diplo. The next one, 53, is chill on the XM. See travel. Right. Rear. Rock. Let me turn it down a bit. Shut this thing down one more time for a sec. I had to get some air going in here, man. It gets hot in Texas, no lie. And I was trying to let my exhaust. That's what the problem is. It didn't have a vent set right either. I was moving the radio down. There we go. Okay. So it's just a hot day in Texas. And definitely keep extra straps for your loads if y'all running E-Track and that kind of stuff, because for real, you can never have enough ratchet straps. I don't ever use full straps. No, I'm gonna be hunting. Fork here, and then there we go. Oh man. Yeah, they must have just shut down because everything's still smoking. You can't see the smoke coming out the stack up there, but it is still smoking. I believe that may be all the, like I said, if I can think of something else that I've even got in my truck that I've run as extra parts. I did not make a list, but I've been meaning to do this for so many days now and so long that I'm just like, look, it's got to be done. You got to do it now. So I went off the cuff. No notes. I studied it over some mashed potatoes and some barbecue. Let's see here. It's 80 here. I got you, man. Yeah, it's getting warmer. A lot of rain. It's like you can't get nothing accomplished too. I'm hoping this Days of Noah crap will stop. Check out Mike Morales' channel because he's telling you what they're doing about the weather engineering. And if you don't believe that they're cloud seeding and spraying, listen, people, I used to think that was the craziest thing I ever heard. He's shown the video of it and proof of it, and then I just seen something the other day, and now they're gonna spray us for mosquitoes. Us. So they were doing that last year. I put a link up to that too on this one. And they were dumping chemicals on people while they were going to work at like 7 in the morning. They're walking in these places, and it's like getting hit by, I guess, by Agent Orange, because some of them people, man, they're all dressed up in chem suits dumping that nasty stuff, and it causes brain damage and stuff. Make you talk like a, am I gonna joke and say talk like a politician? I'm just saying. it make your brain slow. You know, who needs that? China's already trying to kill us with I don't know, putting lead paint in baby toys and that kind of mess. We don't need that. So they need to find a better way than dumping chemicals. They're worried about a Zika virus. Zika does not cause microcephaly. Microcephaly is caused by the chemicals that those paint companies down there in South America are dumping into the water, and they're drinking that. So by the way, microcephaly is when your head, it doesn't grow as a baby. It's like a little bitty thing, a little bitty head, and then you die because, you know, whatever, your brain's too small, all this stuff, and your memory, and you just die. Well, as a baby, well, that is caused by the chemicals. The Zika virus is just like the cold or flu, and there's been people who lived on the island who had the Zika virus, and they know it was. They never got microcephaly. There was no issue with it. Don't be scared of the Zika virus. Be scared of the chemicals that they put in the water in that country down there, and be scared of anything else like that spraying for mosquitoes that could cause microcephaly. So I'm just telling you, microcephaly in itself, I'll spell it for you. M-I-C-R-O, microcephaly. Starts with a C. Let's see if I can do this right. C-E-P-H-A. Let's see. C-E-P-H-A-L. Is it A-E or I-E? Either way, you'll find it. Google it. Microcephaly. It's a condition where babies' heads grow to a certain size, small, and then nothing bigger. I'm gonna tell you something. It's not caused by the Zika virus, okay? And and by the way, the government did not create diseases and spread them around. That was some propaganda from Russia, and I've got links to that. That was one of their major things that they were happy of. Look, RT is propaganda for Russia, and they are doing a misinformation, disinformation campaign, propaganda, and you got to stay away from that stuff. They said that 7 ships were hit the other day and on fire, like a Pearl Harbor event. There was only 4 of them, and they were hit, but they weren't on fire. And it was, you know, some mess, you know, proxy people for Iran hit tankers just to be rude. It was, like I said, they put some dents and holes in parts of the hull, but they didn't sink and they didn't catch on fire, and they weren't even in the dock. They're trying to make it look like that dock down there at UAE, United Arab Emirates, is a not safe place to be when it's perfectly safe, and we got the 5th Fleet down there. So, like I said, all the stuff that's lies, almost all of it in the news, is Al Jazeera, RT, Sputnik, all of these propaganda stations. I could put a list of them out there, and they have all their little bitty newspapers that are in little towns in all these countries, and they'll plant one there, and then they'll go to another one. There's a lot of lies out there. Like, man, the collusion lie, all those lies. You can't believe what you read, people. But the thing about them spraying, and they are, is to make it rain, because they figure that they're going to use that water up there that's not coming down. It's going over the ocean, and they think they're helping against any kind of global heating or whatever. I'll tell you, they're messing with stuff they shouldn't be, and it's making tornadoes and stuff, lots of flooding. But they're doing that in every country. They really are. And Mike Morales has put up stuff on it. He's got all the companies that do it except for the ones that do it here in the U.S. And I'm just being honest with you, it's real. That is real. And speaking of Israel, I think it's the one place. Israel is the only country that's not doing it. So, yeah, check out his channel. I'll put a link up and stuff. He does a 16-day forecast every week. That's another thing, too, you should check, is have a pre-flight. You know, I'll get into that. Like a pilot, what they do as a checklist. What you should have is your map book, because they could, you know, take away GPS and you learn how to use it anyways. I'll make a list on all that stuff, but you should have a list of stuff and your directions and all, but also know what the weather is like where you're going for however many days out you can go. Mike Morales has got a 16-day forecast. I've been running by it. So I used to check NOAA. It's way easier to check his. He got every Sunday, 16 days. I can't speak highly enough about it. So, and he's a nice guy. So, and there's a good bunch of people over there. They're always nice to you. So, other than that, I'm gonna get off this thing, or I'm just rambling. Anybody want to say anything? I'll give y'all a little bit of time, and then I'm gonna get off here. I mean, look, there's still mashed potatoes and some. If y'all want some, you want some barbecue? Anybody? Just saying. Take care, dude. I got you. Thank you for stopping in. Share my video to any new drivers. I'm gonna put this in, I think I'll put it in Fix It Vids and Trucking Tips, because man, they need to know this stuff. Get a notepad and you can rewatch it and write the stuff down if you're a new driver, or even if you just like, hey, that's pretty good to keep that. Make a note that you want to buy that stuff, you know. Junkyards have it cheap, but never give away an alternator. Ever, never, ever, ever give away an alternator. Never. You know, take that thing and put it in your bunk, even though it's bad. Even if you take it to a generator place, they'll rebuild it. They'll change the bearing out. They'll rebuild the voltage regulator, and they'll change out the brushes. But it's mainly those brushes, and you can change brushes on a car yourself. You can do it on a truck one yourself, but usually that bearing's so worn out, you need to have that bearing changed too. So at least have them change the bearing and the brushes. Other than that, I know this was informative. I hope it was helpful, and I'm gonna get off this thing. So y'all stay safe, and I'll catch y'all tomorrow on another one. I'm gonna be dropping some more of this stuff. I'll do one on tools you should have. Oh, and we're gonna start with the Allen pack, because you can't even change a fuse in your fuse box if you don't have one of these right here. Okay, you gotta have an Allen pack, because your fuse box has 4 screws on it now. Then you take this and take them out, and you pull it out, Velcro off, take the cover off, and then you're getting to fuses. The fuses you need for this truck are in this truck. Fuses you need for the trailer are under the hood on the driver's side in a different fuse box. I'll show y'all those fuses at some point. Y'all stay safe. I'm out of here. Thank you for joining me, and I will put more knowledge up. So I'm out. Peace.